The rain had started just as I was locking up the office, fat drops that splattered against the pavement and turned the city streets into a blur of reflected neon. I stood under the building's awning, watching other people hurry past with their umbrellas and their purposeful strides, everyone knowing exactly where they were going. I used to be like that. Used to move through the world with that same certainty, before everything got complicated. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya asking if I'd pick up milk on the way home. I smiled despite myself, despite the exhaustion that had settled into my bones after another 12-hour day. Maya was 7 now, all gap-toothed grins and endless questions, and she had a way of grounding me just when I needed it most. I texted back a thumbs up and was about to make a run for the subway when I heard my name. Sarah. Not a question. Never a question with her. I turned to find Victoria standing in the doorway behind me, perfectly dry despite having just come from inside, as if the weather itself wouldn't dare inconvenience her. She was still in her work clothes, the charcoal suit that made her look like she owned the world, which in some ways she did. At least, she owned the architecture firm where I'd worked for the past 3 years, climbing from junior designer to senior associate through sheer stubborn determination and more late nights than I cared to count. I thought you'd left already, I said, hitching my bag higher on my shoulder. I was about to. She had something in her hand, a small navy blue box that looked expensive in that understated way only truly expensive things can manage. But I wanted to give you this first. She held it out to me, and I stared at it like it might bite. What is it? Open it. I didn't move. Couldn't, really. Because I knew what it was, could tell from the size and shape and the particular shade of blue that it was jewelry, and you don't give your employee jewelry unless you're crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed. Not in any professional setting. Not ever. Victoria, I can't. Just open it, Sarah. Her voice was softer than usual, the edge she wielded like a scalpel in meetings temporarily blunted. Please. So I did, because saying no to Victoria was something I'd never quite mastered, even when I should have. The box opened with a whisper of expensive hinges to reveal a necklace, delicate silver chain with a small pendant, abstract and modern, the kind of thing I would have picked out for myself if I'd had the money. Which I didn't. Single mothers working their way up in competitive fields rarely did. It's beautiful, I said, because it was, and because I didn't know what else to say. I saw it and thought of you. Victoria's eyes were on my face, reading me the way she read blueprints, looking for the stress points and the places that might give way under pressure. The design. It reminded me of that concept you presented last month, the one for the Morrison project. All those intersecting lines, the negative space creating meaning. I should have closed the box. Should have handed it back with a polite thanks but no thanks, with a reminder about professional boundaries and appropriate workplace behavior. Should have done a lot of things. Instead, I heard myself say, "We're not dating." I know. She smiled just a little, the expression so rare on her face that it transformed her entirely. I bought it for you anyway. The rain picked up, drumming harder against the awning, and somewhere in the distance a car horn blared. Normal city sounds. Normal evening. Nothing about this was normal. Why? The question came out smaller than I intended. Victoria stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Because you're brilliant and you work harder than anyone else in that building and you never ask for anything, not even the recognition you deserve. Because I wanted to. Because I could. She paused. Because it's your birthday next week and I know you'll spend it pretending it doesn't matter, ordering pizza with Maya and telling yourself that's enough. My throat tightened. How did you know? I pay attention, Sarah. To you. I always have. And there it was, the thing neither of us had said in 3 years of working late together, of her hand occasionally brushing mine when we looked at the same set of plans, of looks that lasted just a beat too long to be purely professional. The thing I'd been pretending didn't exist because acknowledging it would mean making a choice, and I was so tired of making difficult choices. I have a daughter, I said, as if she didn't know. As if Maya hadn't occasionally shown up at the office after school, settling in the break room with her homework while I finished up a project. As if Victoria hadn't once spent 20 minutes helping her with long division while I was on a conference call. I know, Victoria said again. I like her. She's smart. Gets it from you. I'm not looking for anything complicated. I know that too. Victoria reached out and gently closed the box in my hands, her fingers warm against mine. I'm not asking you to be. I'm just giving you a gift, Sarah. Because I wanted to. What you do with it, how you interpret it, that's entirely up to you. I looked down at our hands, at the navy blue box caught between them, at the rain sheeting down beyond our little island of dryness. I thought about Maya, about the careful life I'd built for us after her father left, about all the walls I'd constructed to keep us safe. I thought about Victoria, who saw me not just as an employee or a mother, but as someone worthy of beautiful things given for no reason except want. Okay, I whispered. Okay. Okay, I'll take it. Thank you. Victoria's smile widened, and she squeezed my hand once before letting go. Happy early birthday, Sarah. Get home safe. Maya's waiting for her milk. She turned and walked back into the building, leaving me standing there with the box clutched in my hand and 1,000 questions I didn't quite know how to ask. The rain showed no signs of stopping, so I tucked the necklace carefully into my bag and ran for the subway, splashing through puddles like a kid, feeling something dangerously close to happiness flutter in my chest. Maya was already asleep when I got home, sprawled across her bed with a book open on her chest and her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. I set the milk in the fridge and stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her breathe, this perfect small person who depended on me for everything. The weight of that responsibility never got lighter, but somewhere along the way I'd learned to carry it with something like grace. In my own room, I took out the necklace and held it up to the light. It spun slowly, catching the lamplight, all those intersecting lines creating something beautiful from empty space. I thought about what Victoria had said, about paying attention, about wanting to give me something just because she could. I thought about the last time someone had given me anything without wanting something in return. I couldn't remember. I put the necklace on. It settled against my collarbone like it belonged there, cool metal warming against my skin. In the mirror, I looked like myself, but somehow different. Not transformed, exactly. Just seen. Recognized. Known. I wore it to work the next day, hidden under my blouse where no one could see it but me. It felt like a secret, like a promise I hadn't quite made yet. Victoria didn't mention it, didn't ask if I'd kept it or worn it or thrown it away. She just smiled at me across the conference table during the morning meeting, a small private thing that made my colleague Rachel raise her eyebrows, and I felt the pendant press against my skin like a heartbeat. The Morrison project is coming along well, Victoria said, pulling up the renderings I'd stayed late to perfect. Sarah's done exceptional work on the facade integration. I think we should present this to the client as our primary option. Pride warmed through me, the professional kind I'd earned through skill and dedication, but underneath it something else flickered, something that had nothing to do with work and everything to do with the way Victoria's eyes found mine and held them just a fraction too long. After the meeting, Rachel cornered me by the coffee machine. So, she said, drawing out the word with surgical precision. What's going on with you and the Ice Queen? Nothing, I said automatically. We're not dating. Aha. Rachel had been at the firm longer than anyone except Victoria herself, had seen associates come and go, had witnessed office romances bloom and crash and burn. She had opinions about everything and no compunction about sharing them. She's never looked at anyone the way she looks at you. She doesn't look at me any particular way. Sarah. Sweetheart. I love you, but you're either lying to me or lying to yourself, and I'm not sure which is worse. Rachel stirred her coffee with unnecessary vigor. Just be careful, okay? Workplace stuff gets messy, and you've got Maya to think about. I know, I said quietly. I always think about Maya. I know you do. Rachel's expression softened. That's what makes you a good mom. I just don't want you to forget you're allowed to think about yourself too, sometimes. I carried those words with me through the rest of the day, through client calls and revision notes and the endless small tasks that made up my professional life. At 6, when most people had gone home, I was still at my desk, fine-tuning the structural calculations for a load-bearing wall. My phone buzzed with a text from the babysitter, Mrs. Kowalski from downstairs, saying Maya had finished her homework and was asking when I'd be home. Late night. Victoria appeared at my elbow, 2 cups of coffee in her hands, one of which she set on my desk. She'd learned how I took it months ago, had never forgotten. Just finishing up the Morrison calculations. Want to make sure everything's perfect before the presentation. It already is perfect. You made it that way. Victoria pulled up a chair and sat down beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. But I know you won't believe that until you've checked it 3 more times, so I brought reinforcements. The coffee was exactly right, strong and hot with just enough cream to cut the bitterness. I took a sip and felt some of the day's tension ease from my shoulders. You didn't have to. I know. She was looking at her own coffee, not at me, which somehow made her next words feel heavier. I wanted to. I seem to do a lot of things I want to when it comes to you. My heart did something complicated in my chest. Victoria. I'm not asking for anything, she said quickly. I just need you to know that. Whatever this is, whatever it might become, I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I just want to be here, drinking coffee with you while you over-prepare for a presentation you're going to nail. Is that okay? I looked at her then, really looked. Victoria was 42 to my 33, silver threading through her dark hair, lines at the corners of her eyes that deepened when she smiled. She ran a successful firm, commanded respect in a male-dominated industry, could reduce contractors to nervous wrecks with a single raised eyebrow. And here she was, asking my permission to sit beside me while I worked. Yeah, I said. That's okay. We worked in companionable silence for another hour, her presence somehow making the tasks feel less solitary, less overwhelming. When I finally saved my work and shut down my computer, it was nearly 8, and guilt twisted in my stomach about Maya, about another evening cut short, another bedtime story missed. Go home to your daughter, Victoria said, as if reading my mind. She needs you more than these calculations do. I gathered my things, the necklace shifting against my skin as I moved. At the door, I turned back. Thank you. For the coffee. For everything. Anytime, Sarah. I mean that. The subway ride home was long and crowded, giving me too much time to think about what was happening, about lines being crossed and boundaries growing blurry. I thought about Maya, about the example I was setting, about what it meant to let someone care for you when you'd spent so long learning to care for yourself. I thought about Victoria's hands, graceful and strong, and the way she looked at me like I was something precious. Mrs. Kowalski met me at the door with a knowing smile. She's still awake. Insisted on waiting up for you. I found Maya in her pajamas, curled up on the couch with her rabbit, fighting to keep her eyes open. When she saw me, her whole face lit up with a smile that made every late night, every sacrifice, every hard choice worth it. Mama. She launched herself at me, all skinny arms and fierce love. You're home. I'm home, baby. Sorry it's so late. It's okay. Mrs. K made cookies. Maya pulled back to look at me, her eyes, so like my own, serious and searching. Are you happy, Mama? The question caught me off guard. What? Of course I am. Why would you ask that? She shrugged, suddenly shy. You just seem different lately. Like you're thinking about something far away. But also like you smile more. Even when you think I'm not looking. Children saw everything, I reminded myself. All the things adults tried to hide. I guess I do feel a little different, I admitted. Is that okay? Yeah. Maya snuggled against me, her weight warm and solid and real. Different is good sometimes. Like when you're growing, you know. You have to be different to get bigger. I pressed a kiss to the top of her head, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. When did you get so wise? I'm 7, she said, as if that explained everything. Maybe it did. That night, after I'd tucked Maya in and read her the bedtime story I'd missed, after I'd cleaned the kitchen and set the coffee maker for the morning and done all the small domestic rituals that structured our life, I stood in the bathroom and took off the necklace. The skin underneath was slightly warm where the metal had rested all day, a faint impression of chain links visible in the mirror. I could put it away. Tuck it in a drawer, wear it only at home, keep that part of my life separate and safe and uncomplicated. I could maintain the boundaries I'd built, the walls that had protected me and Maya for so long. But I didn't. I put it back on, fastened the delicate clasp, let it settle once more against my heart. 3 days later, Victoria asked me to dinner. Just dinner, she said, catching me as I was packing up for the evening. There's a new place that opened downtown, supposed to have incredible food. I thought you might like to try it. With me. If you want. The office was empty around us, everyone else having fled at 5 o'clock sharp, eager to reclaim their Friday evenings. Through the window, the city was turning golden in the late afternoon sun, all those buildings full of people living their complicated, messy, beautiful lives. "When?" I asked. "Tomorrow night? I know it's short notice, and if you can't arrange childcare. Mrs. Kowalski owes me a favor. She'd probably love an evening with Maya." I took a breath. "What time?" Victoria's face transformed, that rare smile breaking through her usual composure. 7? I could pick you up, or we could meet there, whatever makes you more comfortable." "Let's meet there," I said, not quite ready for Victoria to see the cramped apartment with its second-hand furniture and Maya's artwork covering every available surface. "Not yet." "Perfect. I'll text you the address." She hesitated, then added, "This is a date, Sarah. I want to be clear about that. Not a work dinner, not a networking opportunity. A date. With you. Because I'd very much like to take you to dinner and talk about things that have nothing to do with architecture." My pulse hammered in my throat. Okay. Okay. Okay, it's a date. I spent Saturday in a state of controlled panic, cleaning the apartment while Maya watched cartoons, trying on every piece of clothing I owned and discarding them all as wrong, too casual, too formal, too desperate, not desperate enough. Finally, I settled on a simple black dress I'd bought years ago for a work event and barely worn since, paired with the necklace Victoria had given me, now visible above the neckline. "You look pretty, Mama," Maya said, looking up from her coloring when I emerged from my room. "Are you going somewhere special?" "Just dinner with a friend," I said, which wasn't exactly a lie but wasn't exactly the truth either. "A friend from work?" Maya was 7, but she had the interrogation skills of a seasoned detective. "Ms. Victoria?" I should have known she'd remember Victoria from her office visits, should have realized that nothing escaped my daughter's notice. "Yes, Ms. Victoria. We're going to try a new restaurant." "She's nice," Maya said matter-of-factly, returning to her coloring. "She helped me with my math that one time. And she asked me about my favorite books." She looked up again, those serious eyes holding mine. "Do you like her, Mama? Like her?" And there it was, the question I'd been avoiding asking myself, now coming from my 7-year-old daughter with her purple crayon and her rabbit-shaped eraser. "I think I might," I said softly. "Is that okay?" Maya considered this, her small face thoughtful. "Does she make you happy?" "She makes me feel seen." "Is that the same thing?" "I think so." Maya went back to her coloring, the matter apparently settled in her mind with the easy certainty of childhood. "You should be happy, Mama. You deserve it." I knelt down beside her, gathering her into a hug that she tolerated with the patience of someone used to her mother's sudden displays of emotion. "Thank you, baby. Now be good for Mrs. K, okay? I'll be home before you're asleep." The restaurant was small and intimate, all exposed brick and dim lighting and tables for two tucked into cozy corners. Victoria was already there when I arrived, standing near the bar in dark jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my entire outfit, and when she saw me, something in her expression made my breath catch. "You wore it," she said, her eyes on the necklace. "I've been wearing it. Every day since you gave it to me." "I know." She stepped closer, and I could smell that subtle perfume again, could see the way the low light caught in her eyes. "But tonight you let me see it. That's different." The hostess led us to a corner table, and for a moment we both just sat there, looking at each other across candlelight and white linen, the weight of this moment, this choice, settling between us like a third presence. "I'm nervous," I admitted. "I haven't done this in a long time. Since before Maya." "I'm nervous too," Victoria said, and the confession surprised me. "I haven't wanted to do this in a long time. Since before I stopped believing I deserved to want it." "What changed?" "You." She said it simply, without hesitation. "You changed things. The way you move through the world, the way you care about your work and your daughter and the people around you with this fierce, protective gentleness. The way you never give up, never settle, never stop trying to make things better." I started paying attention, and then I couldn't stop. The server appeared with menus, and we ordered without really looking at them, both of us too focused on each other to care much about food. When she left, the silence that fell was comfortable, expectant, full of possibility. "Tell me about Maya," Victoria said. "Not work Maya, the version I see for 5 minutes in the break room. Real Maya. What she's like, what she loves, what keeps you up at night worrying. So I did. I told her about Maya's obsession with space, about the glow-in-the-dark stars covering her ceiling and her ambition to be an astronaut or maybe a veterinarian or possibly both. I told her about the time Maya had asked why she didn't have a father and I'd had to explain, in age-appropriate terms, that sometimes grown-ups make babies and then decide they don't want to be parents, and how Maya had been quiet for a long time before saying, "That's okay, Mama. We're enough." I told her about the sleepless nights and the tight budgets and the constant guilt of working late, of never feeling like I was enough for either my job or my daughter. I told her things I'd never said out loud, not even to Rachel, not even to myself in the privacy of my own thoughts. And Victoria listened. Really listened, not just waiting for her turn to talk but absorbing every word, her eyes never leaving my face, her expression open and understanding in a way that made my chest ache. "You're an incredible mother," she said when I'd finished. "Maya's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's the best thing I've ever done. I believe that." Victoria reached across the table, her hand palm up, an invitation. I took it, felt her fingers close around mine, warm and steady. "But you're allowed to be other things too, Sarah. Not just a mother, not just an architect. You're allowed to be a woman who wants things, who has needs, who deserves to be cared for the way you care for everyone else." "I don't know how to let people in," I whispered. "Not anymore. Not after everything." "I know. I'm not asking you to figure it all out tonight. I'm just asking you to sit here with me, to eat overpriced food and drink wine that's probably too expensive for a Tuesday, to talk about nothing and everything, to let yourself be present in this moment without worrying about what comes next." She smiled. "I'm very good at patience, Sarah. I can wait as long as you need." The food came, and it was as incredible as advertised, each course more beautiful and complex than the last. We talked about everything except work, about books and music and the way the city looked different at night, about childhood memories and dreams we'd given up on and ones we still secretly held. Victoria told me about her own past, about the relationship that had ended badly 5 years ago, about the choice she'd made to focus on building her firm instead of building a life, about the loneliness of success. "Sometimes I look around at everything I've accomplished," she said, "and I think, what's the point? If there's no one to share it with, if I go home to an empty apartment and eat takeout alone and fall asleep watching Netflix, does any of it matter?" "It matters," I said firmly. "What you've built, the opportunities you've created for people like me, the beautiful things you've brought into the world, all of that matters. Even if no one else sees it. But I want someone to see it. I want you to see it." Her thumb stroked across my knuckles, a gentle repetitive motion that sent warmth spreading up my arm. "I want to share it with you, Sarah. Not because I need validation, but because sharing things with you makes them better. Makes them mean something different. Something more." We stayed until the restaurant closed, until the staff started stacking chairs on nearby tables and giving us pointed looks, until there was nothing left to do but walk out into the night together. The air had cooled, autumn finally asserting itself after a long summer, and I shivered despite my jacket. Victoria shrugged off her own coat and draped it around my shoulders without asking, the gesture so natural, so caring, that something inside me cracked open just a little wider. "Thank you," I said. "For dinner. For everything. Can I drive you home?" I should have said no. Should have maintained that last boundary, kept my world separate for just a little longer. But standing there on the sidewalk with Victoria's coat warm around me and her eyes hopeful in the streetlight, I found I didn't want to. "Yes," I said. "I'd like that."